Hi, I'm Ondřej from Czech Games, and I want to stream Velvet 89 with you. It's our newest game. It's an hidden object free historical game that tackles the fall of communism in Czechoslovakia. And this stream is a part of a special celebration called Czech and Slovak Games Week, which takes place annually every year to celebrate all the great and diverse Czech and Slovak games that are currently on Steam or also like coming soon to Steam. So check out the rest of the event if you haven't already, and let's dive into Velvet 89. But before we do that, I think it's a really nice time to stream this game because Czech Games Week takes place in November, and our game takes place in November as well, because that was a time when a Velvet Revolution started and happened, and the game is trying to show the key moments from this historically unprecedented chain or series of events. And before we dive into gameplay, uh, I just want to quickly thank our partners, People in Need and Stories of Injustice, which made the game with us and who ensured that all the historical events in the game and how the different towns in the game, as you can see from the menu, look and that they are accurate. So Velvet 89 is very much a game that is in vein with our other historical games, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. So I have a special pre-opened game right here. Uh, it, if you start the game, you will have to gradually unlock those different levels, which represent different towns and cities where Velvet Revolution took place, where people took to the streets and protested the unjust regime that our country and our countries have been living under. But if you start it, you will have to gradually unlock them. So we'll start with intro to kind of give you a bit more of a vibe background and historical background, and maybe a little bit commentary on how we approached history in this particular case. So let's go. As you can see, this is something that actually is present in our other games, Svoboda 1945 and Atenta 1942. We have a disclaimer which tells you that this game is about real history, but the characters are fictitious. And I'll talk about what it means a little bit later, but it's something we do at Charles Games. After having a little bit of a detour with Bicarbonize and other games, we've kind of circled back to the history, and Velvet 89 is the result. So we've tackled and I think it's really nice because with our previous games, we've tackled World War II, we've tackled post World War II, and now we're tackling like actually not the very end, but nearby end of the 20th century. And here we are. The game starts with this thing called Palach Week, which was in January 1989, and it was like one of the biggest series of civil unrest since the 70s, and it was brutally cracked down by the police. We tell you all of this in the game. And so we are in a year where something was bubbling up, something was stirring, maybe even like faint ideas of hope for overthrowing or like maybe intensifying the protests that people and civic society had been doing under communism. And this all kind of came on head in November. And our game is starting not in Prague, which you might have heard about, all the Prague events, especially Národní třída or Národní Street. But our game starts earlier, on the 13th of November in Teplice, which is this kind of a smaller town or smaller city in the northern Bohemia. And it's not often talked about, but it's one of the first dialogues that happened between people who are protesting and the government and regime as a whole. And what is really interesting about this particular protest is that actually it was sparked by an environmental concerns, which is something we all of us in Charles Games found really inspiring and interesting. We've also done an environmental game, as you might know. And it's really interesting to see that in 1989, what became maybe the first sparks of Velvet Revolution were actually environmental topics and environmental themes. And the politics was only gradually being introduced into these civic protests, which were really driven by just people being angry of their siblings and their relatives being constantly sick, of the inversion of apparently unhealthy living conditions in this northern Bohemian region. So here we are in Teplice. We can see that the game Velvet 89 is kind of a hidden object game where the main area where you're looking for the different characters are those demonstrations. A big shout out to our development team, especially Teresa, for making a slew of tools to populate those different protests. As you can see, we kind of have these like mixed archetypes of different characters, which are then combined in the engine thanks to these tools to kind of make this a lot of combinations of different hands, or different torsos, or different feet, of different hair and heads. And Teplice is the smallest of the demonstrations, but as we'll gradually see, there are demonstrations with up to 5,000 characters being on a screen at a single time, which I think is kind of, I don't know, a technical achievement in a way. And it was really fun just like doing the game design, which I was involved in a little bit, to kind of trying to create a composition of those different levels. But how the game is played, it's your kind of a typical hidden object game. We were really inspired by different games. Castle Full of Cats would be one, but most notably Hidden Folks. So at the bottom you have your main goals. Each of these scenes starts with some of those characters you have to find unlocked, and then gradually you will unlock the other part of the level, and those are the ones you should be looking for. We've actually heard about people who were looking for them just based on how they look, but be mindful that if you click the portrait, we will give you a little hint. And these hints are very important, not only because they help the gameplay and they are here to like help you, especially in the later levels, but they give you an important information and maybe a little bit more idea into what these people were who came to protest against the communist regime, because that's what the game is about. It's about ordinary people, not about your typical history book heroes, which we kind of know about and we were taught about and learned about, but we really wanted to focus on the everyday people. So for example, if we try to find somebody, I have to pretend I don't know where they are, but it's very possible I might have already forgotten placements of some of them, so this will be fun for me as well. So let's see. So this guy he still can't believe how many people showed up today, and he's standing in the middle of it all. So obviously I can zoom in, I can zoom out, and if I don't know, I can help myself with a little hint, but this is a really big hint, so I want to try to do it by myself. So okay, I know where he is, so I think it's here. And once you find the character, he will or they will tell you why they're here, why they're protesting. And as you can see, we will have an affiliation. So we know this one as a student, and he's here because his sister is in the hospital for the third time in 2 years, and everyone knows someone who's in poor health. So we're getting those environmental concerns. And we also are getting hints of how uninterested the regime and the government is in lives of ordinary people, which is a leitmotif that's penetrating all these different like motivations. Is this kind of an interest in improving the real living conditions of people under the communist regime. So once you can read this and you finish it, somebody has to speak up. So and now you heard the little chime, and now he's done. And this person in particular was inspired by actual people who called the protest, who created the posters and like were actually the instigators of this particular protest. In our game, it's only one day, but in reality, it was multiple days with multiple different outcomes. But what ultimately happened was that they made the communist regime to talk to them, which was a first in this kind of civic unrest, civic protest history in Czechoslovakia. I don't want to spoil too much because the game is not that long, but maybe we can look for the policeman. So he's among his men, tapping his foot against the manhole cover. So, yeah, not this one. You can see already that if you click the characters, they will do a little animation, which is a little touch our animator Ondřej put into the game. Also, you can see they are holding different protest signs, like for example here or here, and those are either heavily inspired or really like, just taken from photographs and put into game to kind of give the game a sense of veracity and historical accuracy. So it was really fun aspect of making the game to actually like select from archival footage and archival photos those motifs that we wanted to use. So let's get a little hint, and now we know that he's actually in this direction. So let's see, and I think it could be this guy. Oh, here he is. So this Jan, a public security officer, an officer of the police branch of the government forces. Thousands of them. So as you can already see, because he's talking about we're pushing them out for now, but I'm waiting for orders how to handle them next. The hidden object genre of the game is interesting for several reasons, but of course, because it's a hidden object, it's not really dynamic and it's a bit static, which I really like, but also we had to find a way how to introduce the dynamism into game, and we did it through this kind of dialogues and monologues those people have, which are hinting at what happened before and what happened after the real event, the one we're depicting, right? So maybe we can try to find one more. She picked up her daughter, or she's going to the pub. She's four-legged friend. That's an interesting one. I think it's here. Yes, that's four-legged friend. In every level of the game, there's a four-legged friend. So it's a little bit of a, can you pet the dog situation. As you can see, she's thinking about her grandchildren. And she no longer cares that like maybe she could face some repercussions because she's old, so she kind of is not that anxious anymore. And that's what we wanted to do. Like each of those characters presents a different perspective on the events that you're witnessing. Maybe one more? I don't know. Do I feel like spoiling? By the way, all those cars are obviously modeled or like drawn and created according to the real things. So these are accurate. These could have been cruising the roads in 1989. And yeah, maybe let's find last one and then we can move on, and I can talk a little bit more maybe also about the graphics and our approach to graphics, which was kind of interesting in a lot of ways. So okay, let's. She's used to going to the pub with her and the protest with her gang. So what I would do if I'd be a player, which we didn't know where she is, I would zoom out and look for some groups of punks. Sounds like groups of punks, right? So There she is. A group of punks. So let's go. Imagine the policeman grabbing you by the hair and ripping your earring off. Ouch. Just because he doesn't like you. Last week they beat up a bandmate. Smog is terrible, but the whole regime is suffocating us. Yesterday they attacked us, but today we won't give up. So you already see that we are hinting on the protest that took place a day before, which was suppressed, but now they're back because, everything is there. It's the stakes are high. So, and like, there's a lot to be said about the punks and like hippies and all those different subcultures during communism or during pre 1989, but those were kind of called the problematic youth by the regime. I'm paraphrasing. I'm sure there's official translation, but kind of problematic youth, and so they, in a lot of ways, were also the backbone of these protests. So there we go. If you'd played, you would be able to skip this, or we can to skip this this level. But maybe if I find one last person, I can show you actually the archival footage we're working with in the game a lot. She went to the square as soon as she picked up her daughter at daycare, and yeah, I know where she is now. That would be really, really, really awkward if I didn't know that. So here we go. Also, if you think this is too easy, A, I've been putting the game together, and B, this is only the first level. So they are here for the 5th day in a row. I can feel that something can maybe change. So many young people, everyone should be concerned about environment and the future. What else this is about? And that's the thing. I mean, our game is about the protest in 1989, but I believe and I'd hope you share the sentiment that the game is more generally recognizable, that the motives and ideas and the whole idea of people protesting an unjust regime is something that is, understandable throughout cultures, maybe even more so due to the political climate we all live in. So I still hope that Velvet 89 is not just a historical game, but is something that is also inspiring in some ways, maybe to the current struggles. So when you finish the so-called core characters, you can look for the additional ones. You can get an achievement and fill up those little tracker. But if you don't want to, you can skip the scene. So let's skip the scene for now, and I can talk a little bit more about how we approach the archival footage. Yes. So here we go. And these are the real archival footage from the Teplice protest in 1989, which were licensed by Czech Television and their archives, and it was... Hey, it's a coffee maker. Fuck, it's spewing water. I forgot about that. I'm sorry. So let's just wait a little bit. See, it always happens with streams. Anyway, so as you can see, we've seen the archival footage that was licensed by Czech Television and archives, and then you will get kind of an aftermath overview of what happened after the given level. So despite the intervention of the police, the protest ended up in success. The regional secretary of the Communist Party in Czechoslovakia promised the demonstrators a public debate. And this was the first dialogue with authorities that the citizens managed to negotiate in 1989. And what was initially an ecological demonstration helped to set events in motion that marked the beginning of the Velvet Revolution a few days later. And with that, we're back in the menu. If you haven't been playing with scenes unlocked as me, you would be like taken right into the next level. But because I have the developer code, I can do it like this. So I don't know if I should really go through all of those, but we can at least like maybe jump across like the most important motifs within each of those levels. So, by the way, I've also been responsible for sounds, picking sounds, and doing a little bit of music and sound design for the game as well. So I don't know if this is really like hearable on stream, recognizable on stream. But if you click on those levels, you will hear a little piano. This piano is our tones from our national anthem. So actually, you can play a little piece of Czech anthem if you feel like it from the menu. Anyway, let's go to Praha, Národní třída. So this is probably the most widely recognizable symbol of Velvet Revolution. Something we've been taught a lot in school, something that is so present in zeitgeist, and it's the reason why the 17th of October, which coincides, not by coincidence, with Czech and Slovak Games Week, has become such an important date in the Czechoslovak history, and maybe in history of, I don't know, civic movements in Central and Eastern Europe as a whole, or post-communist Europe, post-Soviet Europe for sure. And here we are at Národní třída. This is actually the only level which is this narrow. We've been kind of like trying to work out how to do it with those borders, because with other levels, as you could see, it's kind of a continuous. It continues behind the borders of the screen, but not with Národní třída, because in our stylized graphics we don't have any buildings, which there are in reality on Národní Street, but we decided to kind of go full into the stylized mode where just the street ends in this a little bit of like blending, fade, drop shadow situation. And as you can see, we already have quite a lot of more people here to rummage through. And maybe to give you a little bit of more context, in 1989, and 17th of October, there was a manifestation, or like a remembrance piety event to commemorate Jan Palach, a kind of a famous self-immolated student who protested the occupation by Soviet occupation of Czechoslovakia by Soviet forces in after 1968, and this was at the time in 1989, this was something that was approved, this piety, this remembrance, but as people gathered, gradually they kind of became more and more protest prone, and what was approved as this sort of remembrance event turned out into an anti-regime protest, which was to the largest extent organized by students, but one of the things I learned a lot during the making of this game, because I was also the one who was like dealing with the texts, and our historians and our partners at Stories of Injustice, was that even though we are taught how student-led this Velvet Revolution was, and it definitely was, but for example at Národní Street there was a lot of like different people as well, and we'll have them in a game too. So that's like was a really interesting thing for me to work on. And when this piety started marching into the center of the city with their demands, I can maybe briefly translate some of those texts, which is like the truth wins. We don't want violence. There's power in unity. So no violence and similar. How long this will go on. And then the crowd marched into the city center, where they were cordoned off by the police and then brutally dispersed and actually beaten up. And this was one of the more neurologic points of the revolution, after which a series of events happened that ended up with the regime crumbling. So we had to have this Národní Street in here. And we had to make, or Ondřej, our graphic designer, had to make a lot of new assets, flowers, these flickering candles, also a special models for these people who are holding the candles to kind of give the Národní vibe. and we can maybe, yeah, do a little hidden object hunting. And now we're getting into the levels which I no longer remember completely. So we also have a policeman. Maybe. Okay, let's try with a arguably a little bit easier one. She's kneeling in a non-violent protest. So she'll probably be in the front. There she is. We're supposed to walk away, but how? We can't go forwards, we can't go backwards. And I'm afraid, I hope they'll let us go when they see our hands are bare. And we just want to speak and write freely. We shall overcome someday. Which is this originally gospel song, We Shall Overcome, which has become one of the symbols of the Velvet Revolution in the Czech version, which is Jednou budem dál, but for obvious reasons we had to translate it. So there we go, and for this scene we also had to create those police cars, and we had to decide, which was actually a big point of contention, what the time will be on those clocks, because those clocks are there on Národní Street, they're still there, as well as the lamps and the tram poles, but we had to decide what will be the time that those clocks will be showing up. And right now it's 5 minutes to 8, which is roughly kind of after something ominous started happening. People were blocked from the front and from the back, but before the crackdown really began, where the batons were drawn and people were being beaten up. But we don't have any students. We don't have only students, but we also have. She's lingering cautiously at the edge of the street. It's not hers. Sometimes you have to take notice of, for example, here the bag, the direction of the hairstyle. So you really have to, keep your eyes peeled. And there she is. Jarmila, a cloakroom attendant. We were also thinking quite a lot about the ages, how old somebody should be, about the occupations, to kind of take into account a lot of different occupations and different people from different walks of life. And gradually we introduced different motifs into those dialogues and monologues. For example, here is somebody whose family was impacted by the 68, and that's why she signed a few sentences manifesto, and that's why she's here at this demonstration. So the game is not educational per se, in a sense that we will be teaching you hard facts about Czechoslovak history, but different connections to different historical events are definitely there to kind of give a more plastic picture of what was going on in 1989 and why people were there in the first place. So yeah, I think we can maybe do a little one more. And now I realized I made a mistake, which I'm sorry for because I got it mixed up. But this people who came to Národní třída actually first went to a commemoration not of Jan Palach, but of Jan Opletal, a student who was killed during the anti-Nazi demonstrations during the occupation of Prague by Nazi forces. So that was a lot less problematic for the regime back then, the regime in 1989, to approve. But this gradually turned into a big anti-regime demonstration. So sorry, Jan Palach was the student who was being remembered during the January the same year, and the remembrance of Jan Palach was suppressed, as we've seen in the intro video. So I'm sorry for this mixed up, and with that we can kind of gradually go forward with the game. So this is somebody who wasn't like adamant in going forward demonstrating, but was persuaded after they met for Jan Opletal's remembrance. And he's telling you about what it's like to study at university in 1989, how people are being fired, how people can't write and speak freely, and that's what he wants to change. And that's why he's here in front of this police vehicle. So an organizer person and as well a policeman. But maybe I will just quickly go through them because I want to show you this video. Which one of them is it? It could be this one, yeah. So Marek is a mayor of emergency regimen, and yeah, we really like all of the policemen are like reiterating these talking points that the regime was making about agitators and like these people who don't have interest of the people in mind and just want to cause trouble, which obviously was not the case, because the things people were protesting were very real. And just quickly, and with this person, with Vitek student, we really wanted to capture how gradually the anti-regime movement kind of gained traction, or like it not only the movement itself, but also like the overall how the people felt basically throughout the country, because not everybody who went to these protests, not nearly everybody who went to these protests was, a professional, not like a professional, but like, your usual dissident organizer, but there were a lot of like just ordinary people trying to protest things they weren't happy with. So you still can't believe how many people came today and how many stayed. And maybe we're not on the originally allowed road, but he still believes they'll leave us alone, which is not entirely true. And we can see that in the final video of Národní třída, which are the most iconic, I guess, images of the Velvet Revolution would be those. And I hope it's apparent that we try to replicate the look of them in the game itself. So hopefully that's apparent. So yeah, the demonstration began as a permitted and student-organized assembly to honor the memory of Jan Opletal. And yeah, Jan Opletal was a student killed during anti-Nazi protests in 1939. And then the parade marched to the city center with anti-regime slogan, and that was brutally suppressed. And 2 days later, the Civic Forum was formed, which marked the beginning of more consolidated opposition movement efforts, which then ushered into the rest of the Velvet Revolution. And now the rest of the country had to learn about the events at Národní, which really became very, very important. So that's why, and we probably won't be going too much into this scene, but that's why we have, for example, southern Bohemian city of České Budějovice, which is there to kind of give a perspective of a place that is not, some huge center, to kind of, bring the Velvet Revolution into the regions a little bit, which is also something we wanted to do with the game. That's why it starts at Teplice, that's why there's České Budějovice, and that's why it ends, as we will see, in Ostrava, because the story of Velvet Revolution is sometimes told with an emphasis on Prague, but without the other regions, it could not have ever succeeded. So that's why České Budějovice, Teplice, and all those other parts of the Republic are there. And maybe we can just like very quickly look at like one person or like two persons or something. But like, again, sorry, we had some technical issues, but now it's all back. And let's continue with České Budějovice. And I don't want to linger too long on this particular city, but it was there to kind of give you an regional perspective on the Velvet Revolution events, and with each of those different squares and different cities, we wanted to put into game something that is typical, that will make our arguably stylized graphics recognizable and kind of firmly placed within a context. And in this case, it's the fountain, which had this interesting discussion around it. If to keep this kind of a small statue that is usually and was usually present on the top right there when my cursor is, but it wasn't present in history in 1989 at that particular date when the game is taking place. So in the end, we even though we liked the little statue really very much, and it is something typical for this fountain, we then decided to kind of against it to stay as accurate as possible when it comes to historical accuracy. And here you can see like this is a crowd that already is getting news about what happened at Národní streets and is kind of reacting to it. And so we have students with printouts and leaflets delivering information, because that was something that is unimaginable now, I guess. But back then, people actually had to jump on a train and come to their own city to kind of tell others about what happened in Prague the days prior. So this is something that that was a big part of how the revolution succeeded in the regions, because people were tasked with spreading the information around. We also have some people who are kind of more nervous about what's going on. So if we look at this guy, we'll have somebody who's, maybe not everything in his country works well, but why should it be run by kids who have barely finished their semester? And why be so short-sighted and tear everything down right away? So we have this more of a very types. So not everything is like beautiful and revolutionary and full of hope in our game, because that was not the case for everybody. So we decided to include these people who are, some of them are really not like hostile, but like against the idea of revolution. Some of them are kind of reiterating some of more critical perspectives on it all, like especially those like this person pointing out like that it's students and then they're young and that they are inexperienced, which is something that also like the ruling regime was kind of talking about back then. But also we have like people who are rightly so afraid of what's coming next. So that's that. And again, like as in the case of Teplice, we have Radoslav, an activist, which is an activist who's pensioner. He's 63, and even though there wasn't a Radoslav per se in history, there were people in Budějovice who were kind of being civic activists, even though they already like were retired. So all of these characters, even though they are not real in a sense that there was somebody like Radoslav who existed in 1989, are very much modeled or written and constructed according to the real historical research. And each scene in the game was checked by a historian and by an eyewitness of these events, which I'm really grateful for and happy that those people, who were there in 1989 and stood there, kind of took a look on our game and like gave it a green light. So that's that. There's a full friend as well. So maybe I'll spare you the details about České Budějovice. I just wanted to show you the scene and give you a bit of an idea of the different vibe, of a different square we have in the game. And maybe we can move a little bit somewhere else, which is Letná and Ostrava, or Prague, Letná and Ostrava. Just very quickly, this is the biggest of those demonstrations, and I hope my CPU can handle this. Let's see, but it's I think it's 5,000 or 6,000 characters in this scene generated by the tools that our developers and programmers made. And as you can see, this is probably, along with Ostrava, the most difficult hidden object level. And I don't. And by the way, I don't know if this is recognizable on the stream, but we have spatial audio. So if you're like moving around this loudspeaker, you will hear how the audio changes according to how loud the music is. So that's a really nice thing. I think a really nice like touch that maybe not everybody recognizes, because the game is also on mobile phones, but it's there and it gives a little bit more of a immersive layer to the whole thing. And this is like the days before, or the day before General Strike, which was this huge event where like the whole country kind of risen up and said enough and protested. So this is like leading up right to that. This is like a preparation for it. Letná is also one of the more recognizable events of the Velvet Revolution, because it was really just a big plane in Prague packed with like thousands and like hundreds of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. So this was really like a turning point in a lot of ways for the Velvet Revolution. So if we just like dive a little bit into the motivations in the game. She just arrived, she's near the tram tracks. So she's here, yeah. See, a gardener. Can't be indifferent. We need new ideas and make free elections happen. And stop with the empty phrases. That's something you'd hear a lot about. The empty phrases that the ruling regime is, talking about, even though they don't mean anything at all. And I think this is a good place where to talk a little bit about the graphic design, if there's something you're interested. The graphics were mostly, but not exclusively, but mostly made by Ondřej Javora, our animator and artist and designer, and a great person overall. And how the whole process began was we gathered a lot of different references related to not only the signs that people are holding, but also to their clothing and to the general palette of colors that was present in 1989. And Ondřej created all these different kinds of people, and then also the environment. And the goal was to kind of not pretend that this game is realistic, because we would never be able to do it, because we just have, from the nature of the project, it was futile to attempt any sort of photorealism per se. So we opted out for a more stylized approach. And what is apparent, I hope, in a lot of those things which are present in the game is kind of a paper cut quality to that. Paper cutout quality, that's what I meant. So this is Letná, and as you can see, it's already euphoric. The vibes are really through the roof, and this is one of the high points of the Velvet Revolution when it comes to the hope that is in the air. And we have already your dramaticians and writers and dissidents that are preparing to speak to the crowds, like Vratislav here. And what Vratislav is talking about, that some people have resigned and some people, but the old cadres are still there. That is something that is inspired by the real speeches that took place during that demonstration in 1989. So this is kind of interesting. So we have this guy who came with his daughter from the Catholic Mass. He's somebody who came to the Prague from afar for the canonization of Agnes of Bohemia, and he didn't know much, and he was thinking that maybe the people are exaggerating when it comes to Prague, but Catholic cardinal and the church really backed those protesters, and that's why Luboš and Upholsterer came. And this is one of the, since we have like 50 characters in the game total, this was something that was kind of an interesting tidbit, an interesting a piece of information that is there. It's and it's it kind of helps us to paint more plastic image of the Velvet Revolution as a whole. And again, for me, developing this game, this was a really an interesting piece of information which I didn't really know before. So this is really nice, a really nice thing. Our experts from Stories of Injustice have kind of offered us to include, and we happily obliged. So this is Letna, and since we are kind of moving towards the end of the stream, let's take one final look at Ostrava. And this is really interesting because, as you can see, Ostrava is on the very border of Czech Republic. It's the third most populous city in the country, and it was traditionally a very secret police heavy city, with like secret police being very active and very, very strong in this region. And it was traditionally, and it still is traditionally, a very working class city and region with a lot of mines and a lot of heavy industry. And this right here in the game, we can see, for one, we can see the the miners' flags and a lot of miners. So here's a miner. Here are miners. There are miners. So we knew we had to make some special characters for Ostrava to kind of draw attention to the peculiarities of this particular city, but also. If you finish the game, you will learn that when Václav Havel was elected president, his first presidential journey or trip was to Ostrava, because Ostrava was, as is the consensus, very crucial for the success of the Velvet Revolution. That people in Ostrava will support the general strike and really make themselves heard, and add their voice to the reform efforts. So we have Ostrava here, pretty packed, with this very special fountain in the beginning, and I've accidentally found out this guy. So for 2 days, we've been going around the factories and coal mines. We weren't sure if they would come, if they will listen to some theater people, and now look around me. But it's not going to end with a general strike. I feel something may finally happen. So something might finally happen. And we have students, we have miners, we have, your ordinary working class people. We also have some actors included. We have this one person. It's keeping close the statue of the militiaman, one he'd like to tear down, and it's a hippie or a dissident with long hair, and he's fed up with how police come at them hard, and he signed the Charter 77 petition, and they are preemptively being locked up. So he wants to study and travel and do all the stuff that the party bars him from doing. So he's there. And if you can spot the thing on this, if you can look closely on this tree, you can see that the retro kind of wash that is there, the retro colors, is it's not only in the color scheme in the game, but also we have these little like VHS like kind of effects, like an old CRT television going on. So this is another like one of those touches that Ondřej Javora put into the game. And yeah, from this Friends with the Mine, and I think, yeah, I think he's no Friends with the Mine. Oh, he's here, Friends with the Mine. So when my son got back from Prague with his head smashed in bandage, I realized what they were capable of. We want free elections and for no one to beat our kids. And 20 years in the pit, and that's what I get. So now you can see the dramatic like line in the game where we are referencing the previous events, and our characters are mentioning previous events to kind of give their motivations a little bit more underpinning. So this way it kind of allows us to give context to all the previous demonstrations and the later ones as well. And if you haven't already, you can notice that we also have little kids, because kids were obviously present at those demonstrations as well. So here we go, kids. And I think this might be where we end up, because I don't want to spoil too much of the game, because the game is not that long. Like, you can finish it in like under an hour. If of course it depends on how good are you in those hidden object situations. But you know, it's not a long game, so I don't want to spoil too much. But I hope the stream here gave you a little bit more context about what, you know, how we made a game, how it came to be, and maybe even explain a little bit of our thought process behind the development process. And one last thing I want to leave you with, and I very personally think is really cool, is the hidden object genre is not only useful because it's you know, it's easy to pick up, and like you don't have to have any special skills as a gamer to kind of play this game, which was important for us because we wanted the game to be as approachable as possible. But also, and this is my personal interpretation and a personal take on this, is that the hidden object game allows you, the player, to kind of be be a sort of amateur historian in a sense, where you're the one like looking in the crowd and like trying to find the witness reports and the, you know, the motives and the motivations of people who are there in a kind of, you know, different way than if you'd be just like listening to the linear narrative. So in this way, Velvet 89 is very much in vein with Attentat 1942 and Svoboda 1945, but at the same time, I think it really is trying to do something different, trying to, you know, create some different kind of experience, and I think it really is nice. So, you know, we'd be happy if you played Velvet 89, and if you played it and liked it, leave a review, because every bit and every review helps in the eyes of the Steam algorithm. So thank you so much for tuning in to this stream, and happy playing Velvet 89.